learning to hide behind the smile and going, this is what domestic violence looks like.
What is love bombing?
Saying, I love you very quick. I claim you.
It's destructive like a bomb, but they do it with love so that you don't realize what the bomb is doing.
People don't necessarily understand what narcissism is.
People look for the battered, bruised side, and what screws with your dopamine and serotonin in your brain, it matches that of a drug addict. He says, you are the ugliest thing I've ever seen. One of his friends, he had said, you need to get away from him. You're in danger.
I just want to thank my nervous system for doing those things, because if it didn't, you'd be in a different place or dead.
So when you're in the thick of it and it's gradually getting worse, you don't see it. You adapt to it and you become a part of it.
It's time to shift that programming.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Seth, and this is The Forever Young Show. The most powerful force in this world is a woman who knows who she is, why she is here, and what she wants to accomplish.
And that's where self-care comes in. As a woman, it is my opportunity and my responsibility to take care of me.
Self-care for your mind.
Self-care for your body.
Self-care for your money.
Our mission is to serve women as they fulfill their irreplaceable roles in families, society, business, the fabric of humanity.
So let's get this show on the road.
Shaun Johnson is 40 years old from Phoenix, Arizona, who is passionate about fitness, nutrition, and modalities that promote healing within the bodies from a mind, body, and soul perspective.
She believes her life has been beautiful and only gets better and better, as it really is all about the stories we tell ourselves and how we take care of ourselves.
Her motto is, the mess becomes the message. Shaun's personal journey includes recovering from domestic violence abuse, heartbreak, dating, and just life. Such an honor to have you with us, Shaun. Thank you so much.
Grateful to be here. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Well, Stephanie's, followed you and your story. Obviously, we've known you for years. Get the opportunity to work with you in the entrepreneurial space, but she really came and said, "Hey, I think we need to have Shaun Johnson on the show." And so I think it's a real treat. Anybody who's listening, this is a real treat. And so we're going to jump. We're in the diving board and the deep end. We're not doing this tiptoe thing in today. I heard this from a women's conference. I wasn't at the women's conference, but who knows? Hey, look, I'm here on the show.
There's men that go to women's conferences.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes I would say men who know, men who are in the vibe, men who want to support and champion women, right? And fulfill our roles, and help in that it might be a benefit as you step in and fulfill your roles fully. But anyway, I was reviewing some content from this women's conference, and this absolutely rocked my world, having worked with women pretty much my entire life. So imagine a large conference center of women, and the speaker says, everybody's handed a piece of paper and a pen. And the speaker says, all right, from your own personal experience, if you have ever, and then they'll go through a number of experiences, write that down or put an X on the paper, right? And then they proceed to go through some of the most traumatic experiences a woman might experience in this life. If you ever experienced sexual abuse from a family member, whatever, now take that paper and pass it to the right, 7 spaces. If you ever experienced rape, put an X and pass it to the left, 23 people. If you've ever experienced a host of other problems, domestic violence, abuse. And so they went through a number of these situations and experiences that women had. And they did it in such a way that you might be holding a piece of paper that had a number of X's on it, but you didn't know who those belonged to. Then they said, all right, now we're going to start back at the top of that list. If you're holding a paper that has, an X in this spot, I want you to stand up. And so then they went through all of those situations again. If you experienced domestic violence, please stand up. And all of these women started standing up. Now, it wasn't necessarily the woman who experienced it. It was a woman who was vicariously standing up and standing out and said, for that person who did experience and saying, yes, I did, I'm representing. And they went through this, and you can imagine what's happening in that room as women are standing up, being that representative.
Yeah.
This story just riveted me because I never really thought of it in that way. Healing, obviously, it could have been healing for women to be able to to, in a very discreet way, be represented. But it just made me think about all the crap women may have experienced in life from a very young age. And so today, as we get to have a real intimate conversation with you, but not vicariously, right? We're going to talk about your experiences, and wow, just let us thank you in advance personally for who you are, because we get to work with you. I would have never thought, I would have never known, right? And behind the smile and the light that emanates from you, behind that, there are caverns of experience. So let's dive in and be able to provide some of that healing for women who've walked a mile, in the shoes that you have. Can you take us back 24 years old and what leads up to that? Where were you? Let's go.
Yeah. So, all right. I was 21. I was in acting at the time, and I met a man. I auditioned for his film, which he had already cast, and he ended up writing me a role in it. But then it was also his way to pursue me. In that process, I kept going, nope, he's too old. He was 12 years older than me. He was 33. I was 21. And he kept pursuing, and something about that pursuit. And eventually I caved and I went on a date with him. And this point, we were already in rehearsals for the movie and whatnot. From there, he was the white knight. He remembered everything. He was taking me to extravagant dates and seemed to be so caring and present and open and successful in all the things. And I'm going to caveat and say that there aren't beautiful relationships that start off that way and have those characteristics. But there are little 2 millimeter differences. There are little differences, and I'll talk about that for women who understanding that distinction of where that difference is. So anyway, and we moved really fast. Within 1 month, he proposed, which, was very fast. And he hadn't even met my family or anything. For me, marriage is a big deal. So I said yes. And then it was, I'm not going to back away from it. And just know, again, I have an aunt who got engaged in 2 weeks, and they've been happily married for close to 40 years. But there is another, again, that little switch there for him. This is also a tactic that is done by narcissists, by abusers. It's a way to pull you in and lock you in early. So that talking about it's us against the world, we have something special, I want you for the rest of my life, and that claiming, and he even had me wear a ring early on. And again, it was his way to claim me. And then I felt like an idiot if I backed out type of thing, but I was still crazy into it. And then there's a thing called love bombing, which I've later learned. I'm saying this early on as I talk about this, weaving it in, but just that I have to talk to you now. I have to be with you. Like there was this almost like obsession and had to be a part of everything. I also realized I didn't have room to breathe, and I lost my autonomy pretty quick. But I was also very young, and so anyway, so it was about.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go for it. Yes.
Because you two know a lot more about all this kind of stuff than I do. Steph's always talking to me about, like, she's listening to the story and she's like, yeah, because she knows all this stuff, right?
Yep.
And these terms and whatnot. Do you want to explain to people, between the two of you ladies,
Sure.
What is love bombing?
Love bombing. It is inundation and grand gestures of it's us against the world. Saying I love you very quick. I claim you. That's part of that engaging very early on. It's constantly, I miss you. I want you. Can I talk to you? And it's this like, they're desperate. They need it. But in it, it's like, I'm being pursued. Disney has made us believe that these princes have to work really hard and pursue us. So this man is heavily pursuing me. Okay. So there is part of that where Disney has failed us in that way. But yeah, it's just, and it's like text message, like I'm thinking about you. I want it. And it's, you can't even go an hour without receiving a message of, I need to talk to you, or what are you doing? Where are you going? Or, and you just learn to like, I can't be without this phone, and that leads into a whole other thing. So that's how kind of in one way. And Steph, go ahead and describe if there's anything I missed or another way to describe it.
I guess to me, it's just, bombing you with lots of love. It's their way of, like you said, having that attachment with you and having that control, because they just give you so much love. You're going to question anything else that they do that's out of that context of the love.
Yes. I'm glad you said that. Yes.
So the love, and I have a hard time saying love because it doesn't necessarily.
No, it's not love.
Not love.
Like when you understand the underlying behaviors and motives, you realize that that's selfishness.
It's destructive, like a bomb, but they do it with love so that you don't realize what the bomb is doing.
And how could you think of anybody else? Because they're inundating you the whole time. So you're like, how could I? And then they have this fear that you'll leave them. So they just love bomb you even more.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just coming together, like, are we good for each other? Let's see where this goes. Let's have a healthy pace. That is not a thing for them. They want claim quick.
Well, I would say, I feel like over the last 10, 15 years, at least from my perspective, that we're starting to come out and talk about narcissism a lot. It's in the psychology. It's left the clinical and kind of the psychology realm and come out into the open. But I feel still, even myself, and we've had lots of discussions, that people don't necessarily understand what narcissism is, or the tactics, or women who maybe are married to narcissists.
Or the women that are narcissists. There are some out there.
There
True.
are women as well.
I hear a lot about children, now adults, in their 30s or their 40s or their 50s, talking about, oh yeah, I was raised by a narcissistic parent. We didn't talk about that when I was growing up. I didn't even know
really what it
was. And I guess I just appreciate your perspective, but I think it's also important for women to understand so they can see signs, but at the same time also realize, I feel like I'm a pretty loving guy. I feel like I pursued you.
Yes. But what she was saying is that he was super attached to her and claiming her. You did not do that to me. You gave me my freedom. Like even Shaun, even on the day that we were supposed to get married, I'm with my girlfriends. We all stayed up at a cabin. I was getting ready, makeup, hair, the whole works. And then I call him and I tell him, I was like, please pray for me. I'm having so much anxiety with this, which is so interesting because that whole time that we were dating, I did not have that at all. But on the day we were getting married, I did. And it was very strong. And but I came to myself and, really reflected on it all and prayed to God. And I was like, I know this is not God. This is Satan. He's trying to stop this because he knows this is going to be a very powerful union. And so I called Seth and I was just like, just pray for me. I'm feeling really anxious.
Yeah.
And he said, Stephanie, I love you. If this is not good for you, we don't have to get married. The morning.
Narcissists wouldn't say that.
No, they would not. I was driving to the temple to get married. And he said that to me. Like so a narcissist would not. I said, shut up, Seth. We're getting married. I just need you to pray for me. Which I actually do not. I do not say that very often, but I was just like, just stop. Okay. We're getting married. I just need some prayers.
Yes.
And then again, just before we went to the altar, I was, kind of like anxious with my leg. And I'm like, okay, pray again, please. I'm just feeling anxious. I know this is right. He's like, Stephanie, again, like, I just want you to be happy. I love you. And, if that means that we don't get married, then if that's what's best. And I'm like, stop, we're getting married. Like a narcissist would not do that. Yeah. So honey.
It'd be what you're backing out. It would be a reverse manipulation. What you're backing out. I'm not good enough.
Absolutely.
And then you're on the defense and fighting. That's what they want. They on the defense and fighting for them in the relationship.
Yes.
How interesting that must have been at 21. Again, coming from different environment, really. And I think the age difference, right? I mean, there are 9 years between me and Steph. That's different when you're 21.
Yeah. No, it was different. And I grew up in a loving family. I had a beautiful childhood. I look back and there was definitely like out of protection because of the people that I know that are connected to this person. I will just say there was someone that was close to our family who was a pedophile and who tried to do different things to me. And it started at an early age. So there was other little things, but overall I had a beautiful connected family. We all have our own little workings, but all five of us kids are all super close, and there's spouses and my parents, all of us who live in Arizona, we live in a 3-mile radius of each other. We love each other deeply. So I had a beautiful childhood, and then in high school I dated he was a narcissist, but he was young and I was strong enough to leave it early enough. But yeah, hitting 21, I didn't know. Again, we didn't have the internet. I mean, it was, but it wasn't what it is today, where everything's just so in your face, and didn't kind of see it coming. Dove right into it and in love and all that.
When was the first time? Do you remember when you heard the term narcissist?
It was long after the relationship was over. Yeah, it was years actually. I couldn't tell you the first time I had heard of it. And I think today it's thrown around. I think a lot of people are using it willy-nilly for good people that are not that, or, I'll protect the timeline, but, like you and I, Steph, had talked about, but I'll protect the timeline and the people involved. But following that relationship, I had ended up in a relationship with somebody who, I wouldn't say he was a narcissist, but he had narcissistic tendencies. There were qualities and some of that, like I need you and texting and, a lot of the love bombing, and then reverse flipping the script on me. And then it was my fault for their behavior and stuff like that. So anyway, so it's to say that I think it's thrown around, or there's just people that aren't happy or didn't get what they want, and they're calling their husband or their spouse a narcissist. So I think that's unfortunate. But yeah, I think it was years later when I learned of the term. But I learned what an abuser meant. I learned all those.
Was there a time as you're being bombed with love or narcissistic love? Right? Let's qualify it. But did it feel good? Like,
oh, of course. Felt good to be pursued and to be wanted and adored and all the things that I like to have those remembered and done, like little things that I'd say. And all of a sudden that was a date night. It was like, whoa, he remembered. It was nice. But again, healthy relationships can offer the same thing. So it's learning that distinction of when it's not okay, when it's full of red flags.
And I appreciate this discussion because narcissism is thrown around so much today, like you said, willy-nilly. So there you are, 21, proposal, right? Hasn't met your family, but are you feeling great and totally invested in thinking this is awesome?
I am. There was a little voice in the back of my mind that was like, something's weird about this, but I just overrode it. Again, we have our little Jiminy Cricket, and there's a book, The Gift of Fear, which I'll talk about later, that I'm super passionate about. That was a big help for me. But The Gift of Fear, that's that gift of our instinct, of listening to that. And there were a lot of different points along the way that I completely ignored when I look back. But I did the override, and this is great. Everyone's gonna love him. Blah blah blah. So yeah, I had the little voice in my head that was like, hey.
Okay, so you're loving it. Take us there. After a month long dating, and now we're
engaged. Quiet engagement. Couldn't let people know, but then I had to tell people it was a promise ring, because then we couldn't quite tell people we were engaged, but then some people we could. It was weird. There was all these weird rules, and I was just like, whatever. I'm with him. So probably about 6 months in. I don't quite remember our first fight. I do remember I went into full trauma trigger response. Even my roommates were like, because as a senior year in college, like, what is going on with you? One brought me a Xanax, and I was hyperventilating. I was like, this is the end of us. Like, it was like an addict. And they've proven, so I'll say this too, this is what I later learned about abuse. The highs are so high and the lows are so low. And we had already started to have that by this point. But I don't know if this was it was like our first big fight, but we had a lot of weird little things where he was slowly grabbing a hold of me. But the highs are so high and the lows are so low. It screws with your dopamine and serotonin in your brain where it matches that of a drug addict, and totally screws you up, and you become addicted to it. Even though we don't want it, we don't want to be a part of that, but you want to do everything to calm it down, get back to level and happy again, because it's so high and intense. Yeah, we remember we had our first, and that was the first time I ever took Xanax. My roommates were like, you need this, calm down. And then they all started to pick up on things and noticing that I was morphing to what he wanted and just doing what he wanted, doing the things he wanted. He started to go, well, because one of my exes was a part of my college group of friends, and he got really jealous of him and was upset that he was a part of the group and started going, oh, they're weird and this, and I don't want to hang out with them. Why do you want to hang out with them? And it was like, okay, all right, they're my friends, but I'll just make you happy. And then eventually that happiness and his comfort, it took me away from my friends. And then I just noticed there was something not right in me, and I just started to get more and more quiet. And I'm a very vibrant, lively person. I can have my quiet moments. So it's not to say when people see me quiet or sitting there, it doesn't mean I'm unhappy. I'm just enjoying the peace. So it took me on kind of a wild ride where all of a sudden my friends were starting to go, you're different around him. We don't like him. Are you sure you want to be with him? Like, he said this or did this, and that was weird. And the way you're responding, it doesn't seem healthy. But now I'm still engaged. I'm fighting for this relationship. So then I start pulling back and protecting what was there. But there was and it was almost, it's kind of wild. It's all of a sudden there's like a flip where you go, wait a second, things are weird, where some of his fights where he started locking me out of the house, like my own home, and I couldn't get in. And then it was like, then I turn into that person like banging on the door, like, can I get in my own home? Instead of just going, okay, this is weird, this is not a behavior I want, bye. It was put me in this like fight to calm him down, or he would get super escalated and start throwing things. And it was all about calming him down. Or another thing is we had dogs. He had his dog that he had when I met him. And then we had adopted a Great Dane. Well, the Great Dane bonded with me, and he thought that I loved the dog more than him. And so he started throwing rocks at him when he was in the backyard. And I should have left them, and I didn't.
You were married by this time?
No, we never got married. Got married. We just engaged for 3 years. Engaged.
Wow.
Yes. Never got married. He's threatened by the dog because I loved the dog more than him. And there was just there's a lot of moments. I look back, and then I remember it was a lot of emotional abuse first towards me. So the dog actually came later. But there was a lot of emotional abuse where suddenly I was, who are you texting? What are you doing? Who's on your phone? And then checking my phone. I worked at a call center type. So I'd have to answer the phone and let it sit there so he could hear a call. Otherwise, in his head, I was cheating on him. Meanwhile, he was cheating on me with strippers and everyone and their mother behind my back. But I had to have my phone there the whole time. I found all that a little bit later. But he just started questioning me and was like, I'm not doing anything. But it was constantly, who are you going with? Where are you going? You're wearing makeup. Why are you wearing makeup? Who are you trying to impress? Oh, you're dressed too nice. Why are you dressed that nice? So it was just this like game of control. Like, okay, fine. I will go out without makeup. I will go out without dressing up. And then then it started, my sister and my mom, they're like, you're looking like a school marm. What's happening here? You don't look like yourself. And I just had to smile and nod and be like, I'm just comfortable. I don't know. I had just makeup crap. There's even one story. I'll dive into a specific story. We went to Texas to visit his cousin, and he packed for me. He had packed my clothes and what I was going to wear. It's in El Paso, Texas. Have you ever been to El Paso? Like, the dressiest you get is maybe a nice shirt and jeans. The dressiest, right? He dressed like I was going to Vegas. So he packed me. I remember I had black pants on, and then he packed me this midriff. And I've always been into fitness, so I was always in decent shape, but he packed a midriff for me. And, I had this silver chain belt. Like, that's something you wear in Vegas. And that's not something I wear on a regular basis. I'm the jeans and t-shirt type girl. Like, it was way out of my comfort zone. And when we got dressed and come down, everyone is in jeans, including him. But I'm dressed the way I'm, and I go, whoa, I would like to change. I'm very uncomfortable. You all said a club, and so I was dressed for that, and now I'm like, I don't want to do it. Well, then he gets mad that I'm upset and uncomfortable. Instead, he's, why are you making a scene? Why are you saying that out loud? Like, everyone's now questioning you and questioning me. Just wear it. Just fighting with me the whole time. So we get in the car, and the whole time I'm just like cringing. I'm like doing this with my hands, like, okay, just keep it together. And I don't know if you can hear my poor dog. She's blind. She runs into things. Poor thing. And she gets these coughing attacks, but she's happy and healthy thanks to Pet Tandem.
Well, we're grateful that we've made space for her on the show today. So that is your dog.
Sorry, she's having a moment. She's good though. Anyway, so back to the story. So we get to this nightclub that is like a hole in the wall bar style thing. We walk in and we find a table, and he's like, you stay here, I'll go get drinks. So I'm sitting there. And by this point, I had learned not to make eye contact with any men, not smile. And I'm that person that acknowledges and says hi. It's not a flirtation. It is a genuine hi. You're smiling. What?
It just brought me back to when Seth and I met on the dance floor, and he's always like, do you remember when I looked at you and you smiled? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't. I smile at everybody. Like,
because that wasn't special for me.
I love it.
It is now.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, that's my normal personality is I smile can change a world. Like I like to do that. So anyway, so I just learned, I'm just sitting there quietly. I'm pretty stoic. I'm inside. I'm fuming that I'm having to wear what I'm wearing. I feel like I'm drawing a lot of attention, and that is not where I wanted to be. And didn't like attentions. And he comes over. So by this point, people start to fill the table, and one guy comes up to me. He's still from afar. And what I learned is he was watching. So one guy comes up, and he's like, he totally did. And this one guy comes up, and he's like, will you smile for me? You are beautiful, and you need to smile. And so I was like, I didn't even look at him. I just said, thanks. And just kept looking. He's like, no, seriously, you need to smile. It's okay. And I said, thank you. I appreciate it. Please go. And I just went back, and then the guy was like, okay. And so he leaves. Well, then now he's beelining to me. What did you say? What did you do to attract that man? I go, you dressed me like this and brought me to a club and left me alone. I'm sorry. I like, what? And then now this point it's filled. And this story, I actually haven't ever told the story. So it's funny that this is coming out today, but it needed to come out today. The table starts to fill, and people are all dancing, but there was one man. He was probably maybe in his 80s, and he was dancing by himself, the biggest smile on his face. And the whole time I was staring at him, I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be that free. So he's grilling me about that guy that came up, and did anybody else come talk to me? And I'm just sitting there, just nope, and just answering his questions, not even looking at him, because I know I'm going to burst into tears, and trying to hold it together. And his cousin even starts to join. And I didn't know this till later. His cousin picked up on what was happening. Now the music's really loud, and he says to me, he goes, you better keep a smile on that face while I tell you what's next. And I go, okay. And so I'm smiling. He goes, fake laugh. And he's walking me through when to fake laugh and when to smile. And he says, you are the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I could have been with a model, and instead I chose you, and you're attracting all these people. This is pitiful. You're pathetic. Oh, no, don't start crying. Just keep a smile on your face, keep laughing. And I had to fake laugh and smile, and I just kept my eyes shut because I knew my eyes would tell the story. So I just kept looking down. I didn't want, or eyes shut or looking down. So I didn't want people to hear it. And then he gets up, and then he leaves again. And I'm just sitting there and just trying to gather myself. And then I'm just staring at that man and going, I want to be that man. I want to be free. I want to be free again. I don't know what that feels like right now. I was that way before I met him, but that was a moment that I had realized I had completely lost that side of myself. And it took a long time for her to come back. And I remember leaving later, and I had to really learn, like, what the post that I shared that led us to being on this post today, of learning how to hide behind my smile and hide behind my laugh. It was one of those moments where why I did that post is because all the stuff with Diddy and Cassie, and and there's Micah Williams, I think there's that speculation of her husband, and all the signs read towards him being that, and it's really hard with the autopsy said. So it's like, yeah, I think the family should challenge that one. But anyway, so a lot of that coming up, and that's what makes this conversation still relevant, because people are going through it. But learning to hide behind the smile and going, this is what domestic violence looks like, is it's not always, you don't see the bruises, and there's so much. This is before he turned physical, so there was never any physical bruises yet. So this is all the emotional abuse that had led up to this point. So people look for the battered, bruised side, and it's important to know, like, people can look beautiful and happy, and they have a whole story behind them. And I just think that was really important to say. And so that part of that was a survival tactic for me, to learn how to smile and laugh and hold it together. And then even when we were leaving the club, one of his friends, he had said, you need to get away from him. You're in danger. And I was like, thank you. And then somebody acknowledging and seeing it, that's when you start to cry. It's easy when people don't see it, because it's easier to keep that mask. It's when people hug you and see you, that's when we lose it. So at least I do. And he saw me, and he saw the situation. And I just said, thank you. And I had to get it together so that by the time we got through the crowd and he looked in my eyes, I didn't have tears in my eyes. And I worked through it and got dried up again. And he never knew that was said or whatnot. So yeah, gosh, I haven't told that story. There's just one of those moments where it's not, he didn't hit me, but he did with words. And that's just so twisted, to have someone now just smile. Oh no, don't cry, just fake laugh. And he never raised his voice. He was just saying this all in a calm voice, and I had to hold it together. But it was just powerful to understand that was a moment where I knew that something was up. And then the first time it turned physical. So we were together 2.5 years, no hitting, no physicalness. It was all words, or like the locking me out of things, or the bedroom, or there was some sexual abuse. I guess that's physical, just a little different, but that got worse later. But it was the last 6 months when the first shove came, and we were watching football, and then there was a walkway behind the couch, and I don't quite remember what triggered it. It was something, he triggered something. I was like, I've had it. I can't do this. And I get up and walk around the couch, and to get to the bedroom, I had to walk behind the couch and go around the corner. Well, I walk around the couch. Well, then he meets me. And I was like, I'm done. I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. And he's like, you're not leaving. And he shoves me. Well, I fall on tile, and I fell and hit my back. And then he has that moment, and I have that moment of, wait, now it's physical, right? There's all that mental abuse that had occurred, and it's hard to comprehend it and process it. As I'm speaking today, I'm speaking from a place of a processed place, but in it, you don't understand it. We understand hit. We understand what that is. And so I had that moment. I was like, oh, and he's like, oh, you can't be with somebody who hit you or shoved you. He's like, you just fell over. I didn't. I just barely tapped you. You just fell over. And I was like, no. And so I pushed past him, and not even really pushed past him. I just kind of forced my way around him. I only shoved back once ever. But I get back to the bedroom, and then it's like something out of a movie. I have a suitcase, and I'm starting to throw things in it. As I'm throwing stuff in the suitcase, he's throwing it out of the suitcase. Then all of a sudden, so I'm not stopping. I'm on a mission. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to take the Great Dane, because we still had the Great Dane at this point. What did he do? Then he starts attacking. So we had a wicker hamper. He starts kicking the crap out of it, putting holes in it, and then starts punching the armoire that had our TV and stuff, and starts ripping. He ripped the door off, and then he goes out into the hallway and just starts punching the drywall, putting holes in it, and then starts kicking behind him and just beating it to a pulp. And at this point, then he goes to a place of, I can't lose you. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. And now it's a victim. And then the mother in me comes in to let me nurture this broken man and get him to finally stop. And then we're both crying. He's now has 2 broken hands, and has got blood coming from his leg from kicking the wall behind him. I mean, it's just drywall everywhere.
He's created a distraction to take the focus off of what you're feeling and what you've experienced, and to change your frame of reference.
Yes. Then we're both crying together, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I never want to hit you. You're an angel. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Now insert this loving, sweet man that sees me, and he's apologizing. And our friends who only knew a fraction, they thought they knew everything. I wasn't telling them everything, and he wasn't telling them everything. They just thought a little bit, or they're having problems. Well, all relationships have problems. You guys can work through it together. So then I get that stuck in my head of, well, he's willing to work. So, and he apologizes, he sees this, then we're going to continue the work. And then the next day it was about figuring out how to do the drywall. And it's, again, the high was so high. And then it's like leveling out where now we're in love and things are happy.
Well, because we're fixing the drywall. We're fixing this problem, which it was never the problem, but now all of your energy is, because we're fixing a problem that he created after he created the real problems, but we're going to make this the real the problem. Now you're fixing it. And so it feels good, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about this? Because I don't know, you just had lots of different experiences in life. As you're listening to this, what's coming to mind?
A lot of different thoughts and feelings, I guess. I'm not sure that I should share them. The ones that I'm thinking of don't just involve me. So it does bring me back to, my first and some that I experienced. I don't think the physical abuse never got to where it did for you. I thank God that, I was able to see that he was leading up to that. And I had 2 small children. And honestly, if I didn't have any kids, who knows if I would have taken the same action that I did. Having children, definitely, because I did allow a lot of things to happen without seeing clearly what they were. Yeah. But then when he started to do those things to the children, then it was like, okay, this is done. This is over. This is not okay. Even though it really wasn't okay for him to do things with me either. No. But I'm like, I'm an adult. I can handle it. I can work through this. We're married. Whereas the children are innocent. I mean, when I left my ex-husband, they were 2.5. So, they really could not do anything about it.
No. And that's where I brought up the dog, and that was my kid, and I beat myself up. And, you hear stories of, why didn't you leave? It's easy, we'll take it, but you can't let anyone else. And the fact that I didn't leave after that, it was I understand why people don't leave, but it made me really sad that I didn't make that choice and fight for him, because later I think it cost him his life. I only had him a year. I came home one day and his hip was out because he had kicked him. And he's 150 pounds, and they're like, his chance of survival, 2% of having a good life. You got to make a decision. And that was so hard. That always gets me. It's I really wish I had left. It breaks my heart that I didn't. And I could have had a lot more years with him. And he was such a sweet soul.
I'm so sorry.
No, but just to your point, it's just, it was one where I finally understood when people are why didn't you leave when that happened? It's abuse is powerful.
It is.
It's really powerful.
Well, and when you're in the middle of it, it's not for other people, they're not in your daily life. And so this happens gradually. So when you're in the thick of it and it's gradually getting worse every day, you don't see it. You don't feel it. You adapt to it and you become a part of it. And so when people make comments, it's oh no, it's not that bad, and you also love this person and you trust them. And so you're just no, you're seeing it wrong, or it's not, it definitely is. It makes me really sad to see when other people are so horrible who are abused and condemning them for staying so long.
And, and I'm happy that they don't understand it. I'm very
That's
happy that
true.
they don't understand it. And that's my response to them. If they're hard, I'm like, hey, I'm so grateful you don't understand this and you haven't been through that. And you don't have to understand here, but you need to stop for a second. By the time it turned physical, then it spiraled very fast from there. When I was driving, so I brought that up earlier, when I'd be driving and if we were in a fight, then he'd get mad and shove me into the door. But if I swerved, he'd get even more mad. You just shoved me into the door, and then I'd end up with bruises. And it got to the point where it had escalated so much that it was daily a part of my life where he'd spit on me. He'd get so angry and spit on me. One night he got really upset. Long story, he got jealous of me being with my best friend and her husband, but it was, his husband likes you or he wants you. And he'd never met him before. He just got manic and was very upset. And then the next day she was moving to California. He had come into town because they had long distance and they were going to be in person together. And I helped her move, and I arrived back at the house, and it was just one of those, I'm like, you are not taking this from me. I'm going to be there for my friend, and I'm going to help her move, and I'm going to have fun with her. But you are not taking whatever I can do to try to calm me down. I'll try, and when I got back, I was sitting in a chair. He had steel-toed boots on, and he got so angry, he kicked me in the hip. And I had a dinner plate size bruise on my hip. And by this point, so later I was struggling to walk, and then he'd be like, oh, are you a battered woman? Why are you limping? You're just weak. And so I just have to work really hard on not limping and walk normal, because we went out in public and went to dinner. And one thing that he did is he'd calm down if there were movies playing. And this was when Blockbuster was a thing and around, and you had to go to the store and get DVDs. So I remember that it was that same day, the day I got kicked, and I had some bruises and I was in a tank top, and you could see some bruises forming on my back. And I'd clearly been crying. I looked like a blowfish. My eyes were swollen, and I had grabbed, I think it was 5 DVDs. I think I spent $200 that month on DVDs, which, if you remember the rentals, I mean, they were $4? I had spent $200 that month, and we were broke because there was financial abuse that had happened in that relationship as well. But anyway, I remember standing in line, and I was just like, I just want to get out of here. Just got to get these videos. And there was a couple behind me, and I could hear her talking to him, going, should I ask if she's okay? He's like, I don't know. She's like, she does not look okay. Can we, is she okay? She was wanting to talk to me. And then they were battling what to do. And then I remember even getting up to the counter, and I was so numb at this point. I just wanted the DVDs. There was no emotion whatsoever, but it was clear I was in trouble. And I put the DVDs on the counter. Even the guy, he kind of took a moment, oh, okay. Yeah. He's like, okay, happy to help you. He just didn't, he was like a young kid, and trying to help me check out. And then it was interesting watching Oprah. She gave me words in her show, because she talked a lot about abuse. And I remember watching a show where right as I turned to it, she said, let's take a look at this clip. And I wish I could find it. It's a really powerful, it's hard, but it's a moment, but so she said, let's take a look at this clip. And it's this woman standing in the middle of the room, shaking and crying. And it's like a POV, like a lower POV of a camera looking up at her. And she's just standing, tears streaming down her face. I follow you to a T. I follow you to a T. And you hear this loud voice, tell me you follow me to a T, and that you represent. He would say that all the time, by the way, to me, represent me when you're not around, and you follow me to a T. You're going to do everything I say. And so those were ding, ding, ding. And she's just like, I follow you to a T. I follow you to a T. And then eventually the camera goes to a lower POV. And then the man, husband says, do you see how pathetic she is? And you hear their little 8-year-old son say, yes, I do. And he said, hold this. And now the son is holding the camera. He proceeds to get up and beat her to a pulp on camera. I don't even know these people. Anyway, so that video got him, I think, sentenced to 18 years, what they were able to use in trial. And so it cut back to Oprah. She wipes the tear and she asks her, what started this? And she said, I asked him if he wanted a sandwich. And, you hear the audience, because those who haven't been in an abuse, they don't understand. They're like, a sandwich. Like, to them, it doesn't make sense. And for us, we get that. Like, you nod your head like, I get it. The littlest things that don't make sense. It's not meant, they don't want it to make sense. They want you to be the crazy bird. So, and the day before, he went out all night. I went to bed. Well, in the morning, he's asleep next to me. He came home at some point. He was asleep next to me. I get up and I go and make, bacon and eggs for breakfast. I go back and I lovingly wake him up. It was a loving exchange. And I said, I got breakfast ready. And then I go back in the kitchen and I just start cleaning up. And there was a shift in energy. So we know that shift, and I could feel it. I just started to brace for impact, and his eyes would go black. There was one time in Vegas where someone took a picture of us when he was in that mode, and his eyes literally were black. And I had to rip up the photo. And it was so, because he had piercing blue eyes and they were straight black. So that energy, I could feel it coming down. I was like, oh, no, I can feel it. And he comes in and he's like, I told you I wanted French toast. And I said, when did you tell me you wanted French toast? He goes, last night. And I said, I was asleep when you got home. And then he just comes around the corner and he grabs me and he throws me down on the tile and he's slamming my head and my shoulders into the tile and for making eggs and bacon. And so watching that Oprah episode was another aha moment for me. I'm like, I'm in trouble. This is not good. And so, and then he started taking lipstick and writing all the words you can think of. I don't know if we want to say them on here, but every word you can think of, the C word, the B word, the S word, all of it, every single word was up on the mirror. And I was always having to clean it off. And I started telling my best friend, filling her in on the details. And I just knew, I was like, I'm going to end up dead if I don't, and I just don't want him to get away with it. And throughout our relationship, I remember I'd pray for a heart attack, because to me, that was the safest way to go. Because I wasn't suicidal. I couldn't end my life that way, but a heart attack. I prayed for a heart attack to take me and get me away from him. And that's a weird place to be. It's like, I didn't want to die, but I needed away from him. And I just didn't see a way out. I was too scared. He'd find me, or he had escalated so much at this point. And so I started showing her pictures that I would take of his messages that we'd leave. I showed her the bruise that I had on my hip, and I started taking stuff to her house. Like, I had a necklace that my mom had made, and it's my heart with 6 diamonds, and all the diamonds are from my great grandmother's jewelry that my mom had put in a necklace for me, and it was my heart and my family in it, because I have 4 siblings and my parents, so 7 total. So it's my heart and 6. Anyway, it's worth a lot, and it's worth a lot to me just sentimentally. And he would threaten to take it. And so I even took that, I taped it in an envelope underneath my desk at work, because I didn't want anybody to see it or find it. And it was there for weeks just to show you. And then I started taking stuff to my best friend's house, and she started hiding it. And then there's one infamous time, just to show you the dynamic of what a day could look like. He'd often leave. So his car got repoed and he'd take my car. And so he left for the weekend, and I had no idea where he was or what he was doing. I could guess. At this point, I knew the cheating was there, but it was like, he's out of my hair. I don't care. He's out of I don't have to deal with him. And I was in the shower and I get a call, and by this point I was programmed. I answer the phone at all times. I was in the shower, work, whatever. I had to answer the phone. So I got shampoo in my hair when I answered the phone. He said, can you be out of the house in 5 minutes? I said, I'm in the shower. I'll do my best. Well, then I hear the door. So he was standing outside the house, and I don't, you go, why would you do that? So I was like, I got to get out of the shower. I do not want to be in the shower when he gets here. So I get out, and I was trying to call my best friend, but my phone, I don't know if the energy was so intense, like my phone wouldn't work, and it just kept dialing 9, whatever the number 9 means, but it just kept I was like, why won't it work? I just want to call her. Anyway, so he comes in, I'm in a towel, head still wet. He grabs the phone, he throws it against the wall, and then he starts screaming and yelling and shoving me into the countertop. So much so eventually I'm now sitting up on the countertop. My back is against the mirror. And there was a long story as he wasn't invited to my friend's wedding. And he was like, why am I not invited to the wedding? And then, in my family, when you're in the family, you fight in the family. So like, my significant other comes in, if he has a fight with my sister, those two work it out. I don't get in the middle. It's between them, like that's how our family works. So my dad started to see what was happening and worried. And so my dad called him out on a couple things. Well, then all of a sudden he just cut off and he's like, you need to talk to your dad. You need to talk that. And my dad's like, if he's a man, he's going to call me directly. He's not putting you in the middle. So he's like, why haven't you talked to your dad? So it was between this wedding and them, and no one wanted to talk to him. My dad's like, have him call me. He's not putting you in the middle. So why have you done all this? And I'm just staring at him, just scared. And as he screamed, there's even a point where like his forehead and his nose are in my face. And he had been spitting on me this whole time too. I'm out fresh in the shower. I've got spit all over me and I'm just sitting there taking it. And then just when your stress levels get so high, it's almost like you go deaf. You guys know what that feeling is? And I almost went deaf, and it was wild. But I also felt like I had guardian angels there too. And there was that moment, I was like, well, and he shoved me again. Well, then the mirror starts to crack, or we hear it. I don't think it actually, I think it cracked on the back. Like you could hear cracking, couldn't visibly see it. But anyway, and he's like, well, can't, if you start to get hurt, he goes, that's not coming back on me. How would you like to be buried out in the desert? So, and I'm just sitting there, and then he goes back into why haven't you talked to them or whatever? And I just said, I'm scared. I was telling him I was scared of him, but he thought I was saying I was scared to talk to my dad or my friends. And then all of a sudden he just breaks down and crying. He's like, I'm so sorry. You just make me so crazy. I love you. You're the best. Now I'm covered. Bruises are forming. I'm covered in spit. And I had a family barbecue to go to. So I got back in the shower to get ready and go to my family barbecue. And I had to act like nothing happened and wear stuff that covered bruises and whatever. And my family were all like dancing around, like, what do we do? And so by this point, my friend, she started to tell her mom. And then my friends, the wedding that he wasn't invited to, that whole group also were like, we've got to save her and we got to do something. And it was all coming to a head where it was a TV show style intervention. So there was a point, my brother, the one time I shoved him back was, it was one morning, I was like, I'm not dealing with him today. And I was just walking around, I was getting ready for work, and he's just falling at me, yelling at me the whole time. And I'm just like, just shut up. And I shove him. And then one time ever. Well, by this point, it was a week prior, we had to put Duke down, the Great Dane. And by this point, but we still had the massive kennel. So it was right behind me. He shoved me. Well, I fell backwards into like hitting the edges of the metal cage and then fell to the floor. And then the closet was open and there was stacked wooden pictures. He picks me up and throws me in there. And then I fall and catch myself, and it's like, okay. And then it was like he was done. And then he went back to just doing whatever. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to work. And anyway, I was talking to my brother, and I had made the comment. Of course, I didn't tell the full story. I was just like, yeah, we kind of got in a shoving match today. And he's like, what, he shoved you? And I was like, well, I shoved him first. And he's like, that is not okay. And so he immediately gets in a car and drives from Vegas here. And my sister and brother-in-law, they had only been dating a month. Earlier that day, so my brother's on his way. I needed a dress for the wedding. So I go to my sister's house and to borrow a dress. And I'm in her closet. And I think my sister timed it. She was purposely timing it to where I was in between dresses to see if I had bruises. And she's like, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Seeing all the bruises. She's like, this is not okay. I don't believe you. I don't believe anything you're telling me. You're disappearing. You're not here. And so they're like, you need to leave him. I'm like, I know I need to leave him. I'm tired. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I do need to leave him. And I'm like, I'm going to go home. And they're like, are you sure you want to go home? I'm like, yes, I'm going to go home. And so I go home. Well, then now my brother arrives, and then my brother-in-law is like, we're not. So they get my entire family together, and they're all figuring out how to get me. And then my brother's like, come visit me. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to bed. He's like, no, come visit me. And I was like, I'll just see you tomorrow. I want to go to bed. And meanwhile, he and I are fighting again at home. And I'm just like, I can't deal with all this. And then my brother's like, you know what? We're coming to you. And by this point, so I figured this out at the end. He was selling cocaine out of the house. I'd never done cocaine, never been around it, had no idea. He was drinking and doing cocaine and then just selling it. And he had guns all over the house. And I'd started to pick up on what was going on. And he'd walk me through gun drills, but wouldn't tell me why. Because who was going to show up, and the times he would just take my car and leave. And I had no way to ever leave. So I figured out what was going on. I was like, and I know he'd been drinking and doing other things. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen in his mind. I can't let him come. I can't let my family come here, because his mind, he's going to think he's justified and people are going to end up dead. I can't do this. So I just was like, I don't know. I'm going to my family's house and whatever. And I just left. And he was kind of in a delusion. So it was the start of a soft intervention with my family. And they're like, are you okay? And my brother-in-law's leading it, because my whole family want to just scream at me, why aren't you leaving? My brother-in-law's like, what do you need from us? How can we help you? And then, and I think my aunt too, she's a therapist. She was talking my family through what to do as well, of how to support me and be there for me. So I told him, and by this point too, there's a whole long story attached to that, but my dad had to buy the house we lived in. I met him. I had an 800 credit score. I was debt free. By the end of it, I was 68 grand in debt and a 400 credit score. I couldn't qualify for a house. And there was a lot of, he took out loans in my name, piled up my credit cards, and I had to file bankruptcy at 24 years old. Anyway, so my parents had to buy a house to at least bring me closer into town, because we lived an hour outside of town. My parents are like, or my dad, he can stay there for 30 days or until he finds a place, but you're not going. I'll work with him. Well, I tell him that, and he's lost in his delusion. Well, the next day, neighbors call us, like, weird crap is happening at your house. So we arrive. He left the garage door open. He broke the key off in the doorknob. He cut up my swimsuits, pictures of me and my friends he ripped up, pictures of me and him. He broke the frame over my face, and he wrote stuff all over. He turned the heat up to 100. Cards that we gave each other, he taped them in all the cupboards. Like, you open them up and then they'd play the songs. And then he wrote in the mirror, like, you fed me to the wolves. He put my toothbrush in the toilet. I mean, he took half my underwear drawer. He took computers. He took shoes, because he never wanted me to wear those sexy shoes again for anybody else. Gosh, he did so much stuff. But I was still talking to him. We get through the wedding. He's talking me into meeting him. Meanwhile, my family is emptying the house. My friends that I'm all with are telling my parents play by play everything that's going on. I lie to my friends. I go meet him, and we're going to work on it together. And I get home and to my house. By this point, it's completely cleaned out. My dad is on the phone with our family friend who works for the Phoenix Police Department. My sister's crying. My older brother comes and takes my phone and the key, and they sit me down, and they're like, you're seeing therapy. We've already called your work and said you need help. And if they need to replace you, to go for it. And we're going to go get a restraining order, start verifying if these are the things we need to worry about. What else do we need to worry about? We just want to know what we're working with, and we're going to get you in therapy and blah, blah, blah. And so it was like, whoa. And then my best friend arrived. We drove to the courthouse, and I got a restraining order on Cinco de Mayo, 2008. Everyone was sworn to secrecy of where I was. Only my best friend and her mom were allowed to know. And they came over, and it was a Cinco de Mayo party at my parents' house. What planet am I on? It was just, I was numb. I was so used to shoving everything down. And then from there, it was just a whole world of trying to figure out how to heal and go from there. But yeah, that was the end of it.
Wow.
Wow. I was going to say something like, and tune in for season 2. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So a lot of healing.
So what did you do to start healing?
The quick and short of it, and I actually made notes because I've had so many different things to just look like the easiest way too. But I think first it was important to understand it. So the first piece was, this is why rehab is so powerful, to go cold turkey and disconnect. It's the same thing. Like we talked about the dopamine and that addiction, love addiction that occurs. It's so powerful to have that. So when I was at my parents' house during that time, they put, and it was when, you had actual phones in the house, the wireless ones, so they had to put all of those in a safe, put car keys in a safe. Every computer had a passcode on it. There was no way for me to connect with the outside world. And all it took for me was a couple days to realize how safe I was, to then let it all out and cry and release and get angry. And then they're like, we need to get her a personal trainer. And he did boxing. And so I punched that damn bag 4 times a week. and then my ex's face and everything he did to me was that bag. And I kicked it. I kneed it. I hit it. It was so releasing for me. And my sister and my mom did it with me. So it was like a bonding experience for us. But it's important to find safety in what that looks like. And I realize not everyone is fortunate to have the network that I did to wrap their arms around me. But there's a couple key points that to get out of it. It's you've got to have some place. If there's things that you value, start hiding those and putting those somewhere that they can't touch, because there are so many stories of breaking and damaging things. It's all ways to hurt you. That's all forms of abuse. So, and then just realizing that you just have to mourn the loss of physical things and people. There could be people that are connected to your ex that you have to let go because they chose to be in his life for whatever reason. And so you just have to cut it all cold turkey, and finding that network and finding those people. And I know there's a lot of resources. There's domestic violence lines for people that they need to look up, but leading into safety is super key. And I had found that where I think it was day 5, it was when I am never going back to him. And I started sharing details, and they got me into therapy. So I think it was the very next day I'm in therapy, and I couldn't even talk to the therapist. She's like, why are you here? And I'm like, I was in a bad relationship. And so I guess that's it. Like, just so numb. And she goes, okay, we'll get a journal and just start writing and bring the journal. And if you feel like talking about it, you can talk about it. So journaling was huge, and you have to let out the emotions. One book that was super key is The Gift of Fear. I mentioned that earlier, by Gavin de Becker. Every woman should read this. I encourage you both. Every daughter you have, even any granddaughters, it is powerful. But Gavin de Becker, now he's probably over 50 years, but at the time over 30 years of being in law enforcement, working in domestic violence. And he's also head of security for Oprah and other celebrities. But this book is all true stories, and it's broken up by sections, and it's basically The Gift of Fear. And it also talks about the flaws of law. Everyone's like, take him to court, press charges, put him in jail. And this book, there are quite a few chapters. So The Intimate Enemies starts on page 180. It walks through talking about O.J. Simpson, and Scott Peterson, infamous cases, but all of the signs leading up to it, and reading that chapter. And he's got 33 questions he asked you. And he said, if you can answer yes to multitude of these, then you're in real trouble. And I answered yes to every single one of them. That for me, and I've probably bought 25, if not more, copies of that and given them out. I've sent them to women that I've never even met, because it makes, when you are in an abusive situation, as you know, Steph, is you feel alone and no one else is going through it. No one else is going to understand it. When the statistics are 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men, and 1 in 5 children. So you're dealing with people who know they've gone through it or know, and puts it on a page where it's textbook. While there might be some details slightly different, the control and manipulation tactics are all the same.
They're patterns. These are tried and true patterns. And so if we can put that pattern in front of you, then you can introduce a pattern interrupt, right? Yes. Were you saying that 1 in 4 women, you're talking about the abuse statistics?
Domestic violence, yes.
Domestic violence.
That book was huge for me, is reading that. And then there's a chapter on persistence, which is a lot of, it kind of lays in on a lot of mentalities there. And it is basically saying, don't prosecute, back away. The best response is no response. And it feels so like you're not doing justice. And he talks about that. He's like, I know it feels like you're doing nothing, but you're actually doing something. But here's case after case after case after case. The only thing he did on some cases, he had to change the names due to legality reasons, but they are real stories, is the whole question was, well, I could prosecute him. And I was told that you could probably get him 2 years in jail max, but he might get out early on good behavior. But the question was, what does he do when he gets out? That's the big question. And that was the fear, even when I listened to that Oprah episode where they said, okay, he's in for 18 years. She had asked him, when did he first turn physical? And it wasn't until year 15 of being married to him when he turned physical. So people are like, oh, well, he's not hitting you. It's not abuse. But there are like patterns, perfect word. There are patterns and signs that lead to it. So anytime someone starts to tell me certain things, I take it very seriously and I give them the gift of fear. You need to read this, because even in the gift of fear, it lays out so many things that aren't even physical abuse. It's all of the mental and emotional abuse contextualized, and violence and mentality that is important for everyone to pay attention to. So that was a big thing. And then I remember reading that chapter, and I by this point I'm living with my parents. And so I come downstairs and I had the chapter booked. I said, you guys read this. We are dropping all charges. And I happily went to work. When I got home, my parents were like, we agree. We'll follow your lead. Thing that was super hard because it felt like we were letting someone get away with murder in a way. But you have to do it for survival. So that was a big first step for me. And then it was just through journal entering.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, go for it.
Because that's the first thing I think of is I'm gonna lay his behind, where he belongs. Justice should be served, yes, for what the individual has experienced, in this case, you. But my mind goes to, what about the next woman? You have perspective that I don't have. Mm-hmm. Why? Just really simply, why you decided not to press charges. I think I have an idea, like I'm getting schooling right here.
Yeah. So in the chapters, it called out. So this man, mind you, how do you feel about getting buried in the desert? Question. And all of the abuse that had led to it, where I was like, I'm going to end up dead. He's just going to snap. And there's case after case. Like there's one case, this wasn't labeled out in the book, but this is another infamous case of a girl who the whole family was like, something's not right with this guy. It was her boyfriend. Something's not right with him. We don't know. Anyway, she ends up dead. And she was found in the trunk with a car pushed into the river. But the trunk never quite got wet. And so when they found her body, there was an old tape recorder in there, or video camera, like from 1990s, that we all used to have. When it went through trial, the dad, everyone was like, this guy is guilty, but there was no direct evidence to link the boyfriend to the death. And so he was proven innocent. Well, the dad was like, well, what's on that video camera? And the police were like, we went through it. It's just all static. He's like, no, what's on that? Please look through it. Can I look through it? Like, I want to watch every minute of it. And they're like, no, we already did that. So he had to wait a year and a half after the case in order, I think it was a year and a half, in order where the evidence can be released. And he sat, and it was minute 15 when it was video, and the murder was all on camera of this girl. Yes. And so imagine that, right? And I actually knew a girl. So the bride and groom of the wedding I was at, she had a friend who she had an ex. I don't think he ever got physical with her, but everyone knew something was weird, and they were tangled financially here in Arizona. And they were going to meet up and talk about finances because this guy had owed her some money. Well, he ended up driving her up to Fossil Creek here, and it was a murder-suicide. So this book carves out situations like that of, they're in their head, they think, and he would tell me all the time, he goes, maybe I'm karma. The stuff that you do to me, maybe I'm supposed to be karma. I'm supposed to take all this out on you. And I mean, that mentality. And then, so leading into this and hearing all of these stories, and even knowing Scott Peterson, I think with his stuff too, I don't think he got physical till later. There's that snapping point, but when they snap, they go red and they don't know what they're doing half the time. And I knew that he was capable of that. And so for me, that's when I went, if he's in prison, the whole time he's going to think it's my fault, because every hit he did, every reaction he had was all my fault. So while he's in prison, he's going to blame me for being in there, and he'll retaliate. And he's the guy that would sit in a vehicle and be a coward and attack you in the dark when you're defenseless and stab you in the back. He was that kind of guy.
Well, 18 years of complete focus on how you have ruined his life.
Yep.
Right. And then when he's free to it is a self-preservation.
Completely. And I was working with a girl. I still have yet to meet her in person. I had a friend, and I've learned that I have to ask if somebody's going through it. They're like, I'll share your information. I said, no, no, no. You ask her if it's okay if you share her number with me. She won't ever reach out. So I have them, their permission, share their number with me, and I outreach. So I did this with a girl. He went to prison because of her. She's here in Arizona. And he only got a 2-year sentence. He was getting out on good behavior. And he was messaging her and knew where she lived and that he was coming for her. So there had to get police involved. And so that's why I had to choose safety for myself and my family, because he wasn't in his right mind. And that's what the book calls out. And that's a hard thing. Morally, you go, what do I do? So this is where the law doesn't protect you. And that's what this book calls out.
I think there's also an aspect of that where you talked about like going to rehab, which in that situation, you needed an emotional you needed to be fully disconnected, right? Cold turkey from that entire situation. If you're going into prosecution, you're literally just dragging this entire story out, and the energy that needs to be, going into healing and getting back into safety must be really difficult to even create if you've got this case going on,
Yeah, it always keeps it present. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even in the restraining order, he threatened to take us to court to remove it. My attorney, he found 2 other restraining orders. One was a domestic violence charge. Had I Googled him before, could have seen it, but I didn't. He had a domestic violence charge and 2 restraining orders prior to mine.
I think this is going to be awesome. I think there are a lot of people who are going to relate. Thank you so much for taking it through it. I mean, this has been emotional. This has been hard to listen to. I mean, to experience as an observer, but wow, kudos to you, Shaun, for being here.
For women.
Kudos to your family for recognizing that. And like Stephanie said this recently, and I think it's so powerful, thanks to me, meaning that, I mean, obviously God's number one in her life, but she recognizes that, who was with her all these times through all the hard times? She was. Yeah. No, thanks to me. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Let me go narcissist on everybody. I didn't realize. And tell me how important I am in your life. No, but we'll recognize and recognize that in you, even though you weren't maybe whole, you saved yourself, right? You kept yourself in the game. Let's jump into some of the, okay, now what do we do with this? You've just given everyone a real deep background on what you've experienced. Okay, what's your perspective on self-care, right? Or preservation, not just preservation, but how do I move beyond that now and go into thriving?
What are you most passionate about right now? And what are you doing? What are you doing?
Most passionate right now is helping others find healing. Obviously, the connection that we have through activation and network marketing, that's a big part of it, because when we're healing, we got the mind, that reading that book was getting my mind to connect details. But also there's a book called I think The Body Keeps the Score. It's an amazing book, but we store traumas and emotions inside our body. And it's really important to start to release that. And again, we can do that through the brain, but also you need nutrition, you need exercise, you need our activators, you need to get cells, because trauma damages our cells. It causes aging. We all know stress causes aging. That is a lot of stress that gets put in, and the power of forgiveness, and for those who are spiritual, the power of prayer and believing in something bigger, and getting to that healing and understanding, bringing our bodies along the way. We have to feed our bodies as well. So it's not just our brains, but we got to feed our bodies the appropriate nutrition to get going. And so also what ignites our spirit. And so my big passion is focusing on helping others, hearing their story, and helping find a way to help what serves them on their healing journey to bring their body along their mental path. There's times where your body can be totally stagnant. Again, this is one of the reasons why I love our product so much, is if you're doing all the emotional healing, but you're not bringing your body along in that journey and nourishing your body and getting that, helping it heal itself and start to work on itself, then it can stagnate us, right? If we're not feeding it our body nutrition, then that activates anxiety even more, and stress and lack of sleep. So anyway, so my big passion is helping others find that path, find that journey that's right for them, and to find healing, and at a rapid pace. I took a really long time, and I'm still, when somebody says, oh, I got a new modality, I'm like, please show me, tell me. I want to experience it. I'm in. I want to know all the things. I don't care how woo-woo it sounds. I am in. And learning the best tools that have worked for me. And that's where I say the mess becomes the message, is I want to help people come along on that journey, but help them do it at a faster pace than I did.
Yeah, that's the journey I'm on right now. Figuring out how to get out of fight or flight, because I've been there pretty much all my life. And figuring out how to come out of that, give my nervous system the peace and safety it needs to.
And our nervous system, you bring up something too, a lot of people talk about that freeze or talk about that fight or flight. And, it's such a gift for our bodies. That's our body telling us you're in danger. We've got to protect you. I mean, that's the beautiful part of our nervous system, of that. And even PTSD, that's just our brain going, okay, we had problems. We had an issue. We had danger. Now I'm going to protect you from it. But we're not running from saber-toothed tigers anymore. There's a way to change that nervous system. And so it's thanking. So one thing, a tip that has helped me is thanking my nervous system. Thank you for being my protector. Thank you for being there for me when I needed you. But now it's time to lay you to rest. And now I'm going to set and kick in when I need you, but I'm going to lay you to rest. And so I don't know if that gift helps for you. I know that that's helped for me in a lot of cases, not always, but in helping regulate and get out of that fight or flight, is thanking my body. I thank you. I honor you. I see what you're trying to do. It's time to shift that programming.
I love it. I've never heard that before. And I mean, there have been times where, I have, you start to think, oh, is this woo-woo? That, you're telling yourself I'm safe, or, simple things like that. But then when I feel the physical reaction, when I am safe, and I tell my body and my mind that I'm safe, and how my whole body relaxes when I do that. It's so powerful. Our words are so powerful. Have you ever tried breath work?
Yes, I love breath work.
I'm totally
big fan.
I'm totally into breath work right now. I found the most amazing young couple, and they do breath work, and then he takes you on a journey right after that, and then she does a sound bath after that, and it is so incredible to have a lot of that stuck energy released from my cells. It is quite an experience.
And every experience is different too, because again, you're getting oxygen to different parts of your body and different stored emotions. I have different visions and experiences every time, because I'm unlocking different traumas in different areas in the body.
Yep. Same here. Every experience is different. I do find that when I prepare myself for it and my heart is more open, that I have even better experiences, or more. Like this last time, I had so much shaking, like just involuntary shaking. And like my immediate response is, oh, like tense up, or, do something to stop it. But then I'm like, no, it's okay. Like it's releasing. This is good. And so, I tell myself, no, this is good. Keep going until you're done, until the work is done. And it was amazing, the experiences I had with that.
Absolutely. Big fan.
Have you heard of or done somatic healing?
Yes.
That's another one that I'm diving into and loving.
Love it. And what form of somatic? I know, because breath work can be a somatic experience. Body movement, movement is medicine. So what type of somatic?
So I don't necessarily know the type. I'm still new to all of the somatic. It's this woman that I found on Instagram, and she's called the Workout Witch. And
yes, I know her.
Oh,
yep, I follow her. Yes. So her workout, like her 30-day workout, moving the hips, because we lock, especially intimate abuse, locks up hips.
Yes.
So a lot of women who have locked up hips is typically a masculine wound there.
Well, and women carry a lot of emotion and trauma in their pelvic region. And so it helps with all of that. So yeah, I signed up for her 90-day course. It's 60 days, but it's the hip release first, and then the shoulder, neck. I can't remember the other one because I haven't done it yet. But honestly, I was doing really well with it for a while. I mean, I'd miss a day here and there in between some of them because you're not supposed to miss, more than like 3 or 4. You have to start all over. And so I did really well until I got to a specific one. And it was like day 23 of 30. And then I wouldn't have to start over. And I have been so stuck on that one. And it has to do with journaling or have you done that course, the hip release course?
No, I haven't done it. I follow her, but I haven't done it yet. I've done different forms of it of other people that are kind of similar, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's one where she has you listen to the bilateral music. Binaural music. And then she has you, it's called rage writing for 20 minutes. My whole life, I've always had a hard time journaling or doing any type of writing. It's been a struggle of mine. And so I finally like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to get into it. Well, then I find out she has you do it for 2 days in a row. And so the next time I go to do it, I'm just like, but I'm feeling really good today. I don't want to bring up all that crap, if I'm feeling good. And so I decided to skip it that day. And then the next day, then I was like super angry and like, I don't know, that's where I'm stuck at. So I'm back to square one with it. But up until then, it's a lot of really small, gentle movements. It's actually been really incredible to feel the physical release as well as the emotional release in some of that. Pretty powerful. In fact, I'm like, Seth, you gotta try it. You gotta do this. Like I already bought the course. You gotta do it.
So all of this talk, and I've done some filming of her practicing somatic, as we put out content, and some people may have seen that. And so I'm kind of being familiar with Liz, the workout witch. She may at some point
we're hoping
come on the show. Right?
Amazing. Yeah.
She may come on the show. So I was standing, I think I was at the kitchen sink the other day. And again, I'm taking all this in that Steph's laying down and involved in, and I'm watching it and kind of experiencing it from afar and seeing the benefit. And it was just weird. I just started kind of shifting my hips. I said, okay, I'm going to go still. I'm going to have a moment where I'm going to make some space, and kind of watching what Steph had done, and really as lazy as I could. Those are the words she uses. As lazy as I could. That's a hard thing for me to be lazy. Just so you know, that is not comfortable for me. Right? All right, let's try to be lazy. Right. And I just moved my hips, and I don't know, it was 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds that I just rotated, back and forth. I was telling Steph about this. Something I don't know how to explain right now happened to me. Felt good, and it felt freeing. And I thought, maybe I need to do this somatic stuff. And in fact, I went to her, I said, Steph, I'm thinking I might want to try the somatics.
I was very happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think she does later. I think she does go into Pilates or yoga, but I haven't experienced that part of it yet, which I love yoga. So I'm looking forward to that.
Here's a moment of epiphany for me today on the show. We talk so much in the health world about the problems with our nervous system, right? Overstimulation, or, cortisol levels, or going here, and trauma. And our nervous system is often, I think we think of our nervous system as the bad guy, right? We shouldn't be tripping the nervous system. And so I just appreciate what you said today, because I think it's adding a new POV. It's adding a new perspective. Hey, I just want to thank my nervous system for doing those things, because if it didn't, you'd be in a different place or dead. But now I'm giving you permission, or frankly, I'm giving you a direct order, right? That it's time to go to rest. I think that's such a powerful perspective, that it's not bad, right? We're not going to pander to it either and be prisoners of those chemical reactions. But I just thought that was brilliant today.
Well, I just hear you talk a lot about how you're helping women, since you've come out of that, and how you are a resource. I just keep wanting to ask, like, if anybody is listening to this and they themselves, or they know somebody who needs some help and somebody to turn to, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I post a lot about it. My handle is Shauni04, SHAUNIE04. So feel free to connect with me. We'll chat and help anyone. It's just a passion of mine. Yeah.
And that is in the show notes. That is in the show notes of whatever platform we're on, whether you're on Spotify, Apple, any of the other audios, if you're on YouTube, if you're on our main host site, which is theforeveryoungshow.com. This episode, we will have all of that so that you can just one click away from somebody who has been there and who understands.
And I encourage Buy the Gift of Fear.
Yes.
Page 180, Intimate Enemies chapter.
I'm excited to buy it, to learn from it, because I know I still have a lot that I can learn. And I haven't had it as much recently, but when I went through my divorce, I prayed and told God that I was so grateful that he pulled me out of it so young, and that my kids were so young, and that was a gift from him. And so I wanted to give back. Anybody that came to me, I was willing to talk to and share my experiences with, because I feel like that's where I learned the most. And since then, sharing with other people, like, I'm not going to give my advice, but I will give my experiences. And if I counsel based off of that, just watching how God opened doors for people that I would have never expected. Even men, a few men came to me and even wanted help with what they were going through. Okay, so how can women develop resilience and a growth mindset in the face of challenges and setbacks?
I think a few things. Developing I think sometimes we have to know that it's possible. And when you're in it, it's hard. And I am so grateful that I have had the men that I've had in my life, because I do have true, beautiful examples of beautiful, connected, healthy relationships, healthy friendships. So if someone doesn't have a network or people to lean in on of going, I want that, I think that's possible, then finding that, because they do exist and they're abundant, they're everywhere, but you have to allow yourself to do that. So you have to see what's possible to know where to go, and then trusting our instincts. My instincts knew from the very beginning, and all of us, that's where the Gift of Fear talks about, is we all have our little Jiminy Cricket to know what's not right. So it's trusting in that and learning to trust yourself. And there is that when you come out of abuse and coming out of different things, you lose trust for yourself of your own decision making. Well, I ended up in that. I trust my own decisions? And you have to lean in and go, no, you just have to tap in. And again, for those who are spiritual, pray, tap into God or yourself, lean into that gut instinct and know you have to start learning to trust yourself and trust that voice that's inside. I think that's step one, and knowing what's possible. And then giving yourself challenges. For me, working out has always been an outlet. Being strong is one of those defense mechanisms for me. So exercise is a big thing for me, but I want to feel strong because I never wanted to feel weak. I don't want to get taken advantage of or not being able to defend myself. So that's always been, it's a beautiful outlet, but also it's been that armor and defense mechanism for me, and challenging myself and pushing myself in that way. Even my workout today, I was bawling at the end of it because I pushed myself a lot harder. At the end, I had everyone cheering for me. I was the only one wearing a vest and stuck as true as I could to the workout without doing much modifications. And it was so hard. I almost threw up once and almost passed out once. And Axio for the save. I was like, do you have a banana? Do you have anything? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, I got an Axio in my purse.
Is that what's in your jar today, by the way?
Oh, it sure is strawberry. No. Anyway, but at the end, everyone stayed and rooted me on because I was 10 minutes behind everybody because I was pushing myself with the vest, and it was I was bawling at the end. But today, that was one of those challenges for me. And as we talk about even in our business, is action is where confidence comes from. If we worry so much, and analysis paralysis is a real saying, the problem becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And how many times have you had a massive problem and you thought and worried about it so much that by the time you did it, you're like, that was it. And that's almost every time we run into that. So worrying creates this big thing where it's action. We have to take steps and challenge ourselves, and action is where confidence builds. So for me, working out and pushing myself in the gym and doing different workouts has been a big thing for me to build my confidence and build my strength. And that's part of the movement and medicine type thing. So, and it's nourishing your body, it's feeding your body, and developing that resilience. I think one gift I had, Dr. Brett Brimhall, we know him. I was a patient of his. And when I started to see him, he noticed every time he walked behind me, I would tense up. And he goes, I'm noticing you got some trauma there. And he didn't know my story yet. I hadn't really started. I mean, maybe I'd started sharing online. I don't think I had yet. And he could just pick up on what was going on. Anyway, he goes, you know what? I just encourage you. He goes, nourishment is your word. And that is still my word today. Is my New Year's resolution. Everything is nourishment. And he's like, pick people, places, things, food that nourish your body, mind, and soul. And through nourishment and just realizing, I'm going to just pick things, and it's loving on my body, where fitness used to be about hating my body, but now it's loving my body and fueling my body and feeling my body. So for me, I think for any woman is when you're strong, when you can lift weights and you're building in weights or able to do different exercises, or your lung capacity is better, you just feel better. And it's those little goals that you start doing. So action and movement is a big thing, a big tip, I would say, for anyone.
I love that you brought up what Dr. Brett Brimhall said about nourishing, and not just with food, because anytime we hear nourishment, that's what we typically go towards is food. I think that's something that I'm really discovering for myself is I'm the happiest when I have a social outlet. And, when I struggle with that, I struggle inside and with everything else, because that's a big thing for me. That's a big need that I have. I'm very extroverted, very.
Open the chakra. Yep.
So I love that visualization of, being in places and being with people and doing things that are nourishing to your soul.
So much good happens here. So much good happens here. You coming into that relationship, you said you had an 800 credit score. You got a house, right? And at the end, you had a 400 credit score, and you were $68,000 in debt.
I was debt free when I met him.
Right, debt free.
$68,000 in 3 years.
So you had, and now you have a unique perspective on, I think, women in finance. And one of the things that we talk about on the show, which is so critical, we often kind of compartmentalize self-care into the softer things, pedicures, right? Massages. Hey, and we're for it all, right? Nourish.
We
right?
don't leave them out.
Yeah, they're not out. They're not excluded. But it is by design that self-care for your money, self-care for your finance, and your financial psyche is included here because it's so liberating, right? What is your take right now on the need, or I should say, of what importance is financial security, financial independence to women, and why do you feel that way?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, with, where they say money doesn't make happiness, well, it sure helps. It gives you,
Amen.
It gives you options. You can travel. Part of healing for me is being able to travel and getting to the place where I could travel alone and feel safe doing it. It took a long time to be able to feel safe to do that after all of that. But having financial security, then you don't have to rely on anybody. Now, I will say there's also perspective. I think our society gets to this, I don't want to need a man. I'm going to do it all on my own and blah, blah, blah. And I've been there, and there's a part of the truth to that where it's being able to stand on your own 2 feet. And there is a beauty in not needing another person to make your life go round, wanting instead versus needing. But there's that part where that's a whole other topic of we need to also honor the masculine and honor that we do need them in life and we want to have that. So I say that in a loving perspective and honoring still a masculine man who can contribute and also provide financial security or support. But I think, being able to pay your bills, have a roof over your head, have options, buy an outfit that makes you feel good, be able to go eat a meal that you want and not have to worry about the cost every now and then, or whenever you want, I think is really powerful. And that creates that independence for women to know that I don't need someone to live the life that I want, but I want somebody in my life.
When I was a single mom, I had a gentleman in my church who he had been a single dad and his wife had been a single mom before they met. He said, the best thing that you can do, Stephanie, is be in a place, put yourself in a position to where you don't need a man, but that you're choosing. And that way you don't feel forced to marry somebody because, or to be with somebody because, that you're getting to choose.
Because so many women, we're meant to seek safety. Women have to feel safe in order for our feminine to come out. You hear a lot about the masculine women because we don't feel safe and that guard comes through. But finding safety in ourselves and our own autonomy and our abilities allows us to be safe and be in our feminine. And the feminine energy is powerful. Masculine is, they get stuff done and you go about, where the women are flowy, they're chaotic, they connect, they're vibrant, it's different. So we need that safety, and financial security helps create that safety to allow us to step out if we allow it.
Well, and this isn't 1950.
No.
In fact, I counseled one of our daughters recently. I said, similar to what you both have said, you should educate yourself, or you should put yourself in a position to work, right? Independent, start a business, so that you are capable of taking care of yourself and living an incredible and full life. You marry down the road. I know that that's on her, that's her path. That's what she wants. But goodness, I shouldn't say but if you look at the world, like it is no service to yourself or to the people that you serve to ignore the financial, to ignore your own financial literacy as a woman.
Completely agree.
What did you do about that? What are you doing about that? And we'll probably call it a show.
So the avenue that we met through our company and the products in the network marketing space, it allows you to build a business without having to deal with legal, without having to do shipping and handling and all that stuff. It's a beautiful vehicle with a low entry point, with as high a reward as you would like to go. And both are beautiful examples of that in that, and creating something that's your own. And in it, whoever has said it, I'm sure it's been said by multiple people, but it's personal development disguised as network marketing. So along the way, you get to develop and learn tools. And that's part of that rapid pace. You're now connected into a beautiful network of people that are all growth-minded, like-minded, health-minded. And you have an instant network where it's wild in this business, where there's so many people when we go to our events and connect, we love on each other, but I may not know what they do for a living outside. But there's a bond because we're all going through that personal development journey, and there's this bond that we create going through it. And that's really powerful, especially for someone that's gone through abuse or looking for an avenue. Having a network and access to some of the biggest thought leaders in the world that are like you in our company, or that get brought into our company in these events. And you get to make money off of it. And let's be honest, if you hired a realtor, your friend is a realtor and you sold your house, they'd make commission. If you go get your hair cut by a friend, you'd pay them money. If you have a friend who's a mechanic, you pay them to fix your vehicle. And this is no different. We have beautiful products that are really changing the game for health, and that no one else has. And we can help their bodies flourish and live longer and healthier, and be able to build a beautiful business off of that. So that's what I'm doing is now focusing. I had some time where I wasn't focused on it over the last little while, but getting back into it. And because there isn't anything like it. I've been like, is this really the avenue? And then you look around, it's like everything is trading time for money. And there's something so powerful about having a leveraged check. I was about to say the other word we're not allowed to say, leveraged check, and have that come in for doing the work that you did years ago, but still taking advantage of it and being able to have that freedom. So finding an avenue like that, if anybody's listening to this and this doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. Go find that vehicle that works for you and resonates for you. But being able to build a business and have that financial freedom and do it in the freedoms of the nooks and crannies of your life is huge. So I see the power of this. And I'm at my home company, my home people. I'm not going anywhere, and it's building this. So
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah.
So Shaun, why did you say yes to coming on our show today?
Because I love you both.
Oh.
And big heart. No, I mean, I've everything is about nourishment to me. So I live by that word of who nourishes my soul and what. And, you both, there's always been an energy. And Steph, I don't remember the first time we connected. I think it was in Mexico doing yoga with Marisa, maybe. I think
so.
Birth of our love. But
yes.
I think that's what it was. And then just through following each other and seeing, there's a bond of what we've been through, and that immediately we speak a different language. We immediately understand each other without knowing the inner workings of our lives. Mm-hmm. So, and I haven't been a mom yet, but I immediately relate. You parent different, you do things differently. So there's that bond that happens anyway. So having that, and then also it's a topic, I'm in a good spot too. I had turned down a couple other podcasts over the last year. I just wasn't in a space. I also got to this place of like, is this my story? Like, is this my identity now? Like, there's something that people get attached to their story and attached to their identity. And I was like, this isn't that I don't feel that's mine, but I think my history is important to share. But it's not a badge I wear. It's not and I got in my head of like, do people think that it's an attention thing for me? I got in a weird space based on like different things I had seen online. I'm like, I have to make sure I'm okay. And I had different reasons, which we talked about, that I won't share here, but like, I just wasn't in that space to share it. But now I'm in a really good place of knowing like, it's my story. It doesn't define me. I don't make decisions based off of it. I don't carry it. I've dealt with it all. It's just now I'm in that free space to help others, and I want to help others. And it's through stories that me hearing all the stories I did helped me get out and help me lean towards healing. And it's different stories still every day today are ways to connect and go, I relate to that. Okay, there's a new avenue of thinking through this. So it's important to get the story out, and it's just important. The mess becomes a message, and it's a message for me. It's one of my many stories.
I love that. I went and saw the movie Sight.
I haven't seen
it. It's really good. It's really powerful. And I can't remember who says it in the movie. I think it actually might be a bartender. But what was said was the presence is made possible because of the past. And that was so powerful, owning what you experienced, but not letting it define who you are.
You ladies do this emotion thing all the time. I'm like, man, I feel like I went through the human car wash. Like, talk about ups and downs.
I know.
Man.
The men are the flagpole, and we're the flag.
There you go.
Until we're not.
And
we'll keep you wild.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing such a vulnerable piece of being willing to open up and share and help other women.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I appreciate you both. It's awesome to get to know you both too more.
Yeah. Deepen the connection.
Yes. I think there's one more thing I haven't asked. Do you know what I'm going to ask?
No.
Do you want to go to Africa with us? You said you love to travel.
I do. Yes, you had mentioned that. When are you going?
September.
We're planning on September, the end of September.
Next trip.
Okay, send me the details.
Okay.
Yeah, I do joke about that. So you can't come on the show without being invited to come pour your heart and soul to serve in Africa, and then to get more out of it than you ever put in, because
100%.
I love it. And for some of those, I know there's different programs that people do. Do you fundraise for it to help go, or do people do that, or
we don't? The volunteers that go, they pay their way, and we do fundraising to drill water wells there.
Got it.
Yes. And then we also have a ton of people that donate all kinds of stuff, from homemade dresses, homemade dolls, toys. People donate, suckers. A lot of the kids that we meet have never had a piece of candy before. I could go on about that, but
check out any of the episodes. It's all in there.
I love it. Yes. No, send me the details.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got to build my LifeVantage business a lot bigger too.
Yeah.
Let's get it done. Let us know. Is there anything we can do to help you?
To help me?
Yeah. Yes. What can we do for you?
Just being you. Inspire and keep doing what you're doing. You just light the way for us to know where to go. You guys have what I call pedestal couple. So I didn't know you when I was going through it, but you have joined the ranks of the pedestal couples that are still a light for me. I'm not married or have kids yet. I didn't expect to get this far and not have had it happen, but it just hasn't happened. So, it's another added couple in the list of, I have a light to know what's possible.
We're honored.
We're honored to be your friend. And cut. It's a wrap.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing this episode with that one friend who needs this conversation. Thank you for all the ratings, the reviews, the comments, and especially the support. We so appreciate you.
Now, if you want to take a peek behind the curtain and be the first to know about special previews, backstage updates here at the show, and especially some private collection content that doesn't come out in the regular show,
be sure to join our VIP community at theforeveryoungshow.com.